I think this chronic busyness, a lot of it comes from avoiding the things that are really important, that we don't want to necessarily give time and energy to because it's hard work. Hello and welcome to Spiritually Hungry.
Hello.
I've been thinking a lot about a paradox. Have you noticed that the busiest people that we know are sometimes the ones who are most stuck? You think about that.
Let me think about that.
We live in a culture that celebrates constant activity, full calendars, endless responsibilities, back-to-back meetings, productivity hacks, always doing. This sounds like my life. But what if being busy isn't evidence that you're actually growing? What if all that movement is actually preventing you from seeing where you're stuck? The purpose of life is movement, not physical movement, but spiritual movement. And that takes us to our topic for today. So I want to start with that we do it unknowingly, and we'll get deeper. I'm just trying to get this in before you're like, oh, cut me off. Busyness as a defense mechanism. So we all do this to some extent or another. We fill our lives. We fill it with things, to-dos, minute to minute. Some are better with it. Psychologically, busyness protects us. That constant movement, the overcommitment, the packed schedule, and by the way, we do this to our children too. It can actually shield us from becoming aware of the emotions we'd rather not feel. A defense kind of against pain. I'm watching this new show without you.
Great.
Because you didn't get into the whole, what's his name, Taylor Sheridan shows, Yellowstone, and they're all so good. So now I'm watching the Madison, which is it's sadder than the other ones, and I'm not sure that I actually like it, but it's very sad, and I don't think I'm spoiling it right away. Something really devastating happens. Anyway, she's going through it. It's a lot about grief, and when the wife goes back to their apartment.
So he dies.
It happens like within 5 minutes. She walks in and she starts turning on all the TVs. Like she cannot be in the silence. And of course, it's an extreme example, but I think to some extent we do this all the time, especially with our phones now. It's a constant, I'm better about it. But I remember there was a time where I was sitting, I'm like, wait, what am I not doing? And I realized like I just wasn't looking at my phone. And it felt so weird because we're constantly holding our phones all the time, which is crazy. In any case, I think this chronic busyness, a lot of it comes from avoiding the things that are really important, that we don't want to necessarily give time and energy to because it's hard work.
Well, yeah, the way I would phrase it is that there's actually two forces in this world.
You went right there, honey. That was on page 7.
I did not see your notes.
You're just a what?
An independent thinker.
You independent thinker, you.
But I think when we both understand, I was going to say frame it in this way, but it's not just a framing, it's actually the way the system works, the way the world works, is that there are two forces that exist. There's a force that is there to help you, to give you wisdom, understanding, fulfillment, peace. But as King Solomon says, as there is that force, there is an countervailing force. And its purpose is to distract you, to upset you, to disappoint you. And it's important to know that if we don't proactively choose the path of
continual growth
that leads to inner peace, that comes from calm, that comes from not being distracted, not over busying ourselves. If we don't proactively, and I would say daily, choose that path, then we no longer have free will. We're in the whirlwind of life.
What's interesting too is I think with the two forces, right? The soul ego, or you can say light opponent, right? The two different
right.
forces.
To be clear, these are both internal and external. They exist within each one of us, and they exist in the world.
Correct. And I think when people think about the opposition, we tend to think of it as something negative that happens. And it's not always the case. Sometimes, like I said, it's just the distractions. It's almost even sometimes you're doing the work. You've changed enough. Even if you're doing spiritual work, right? And you're putting energy there, that's enough. There's a cap. You don't need to work so hard. You don't need to help every single person. When are you going to give to yourself more, right? There's this voice, the constant push-pull. And it does get confusing, especially if you're trying to live a spiritual life, because you're training yourself to constantly push, go the extra mile, do. On the other hand, you might do it so much that you're exhausted, you're not feeling fulfilled, or you're giving to the wrong people. It gets very complicated. But I think it's an interesting and important distinction that opposition is not necessarily presented as a negative thing.
Well, I would say two things. Opposition is definitely not a negative thing. It is what...
Well, the opponent, let's say.
Well, okay. The opponent, the opposition, this other force that we're talking about that is going to keep you busy, give you reasons to be busy, to be distracted, not to be focused, not to be internally focused on constant transformation and growth. Because that is that force that allows for free will and allows you to earn whatever growth and blessing that you're able to accomplish. So in this world of free will, the force that is going to distract you from what you're supposed to be doing or in the way that you're supposed to be living your life is not only necessary, it is definitely not negative. It is actually there to help you grow. Without it, we would never grow. So it's definitely not negative. It's definitely a positive, but it's definitely something we have to be very well aware of. And there's...
Well, it's there to help you grow, but it's not recognized as that. It doesn't feel like growth when it's presented.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends how you see it. I think that what you want to do...
It's a muscle, is what I'm saying. It's not obvious.
Yeah. I mean, it's you have to gain that perception. You have to gain that way of viewing life. And if I can, and go a little bit more deeply into this concept, the great Kabbalist Rav Ashlag says that there's two ways of viewing life and viewing our spiritual work, which is the main purpose for which we came into this world, the influence we have on ourselves, the influence we have on our loved ones, the influence we have on others and on the world. There's one way of understanding that I'm here to do good, generally. Now, what does that look like on a daily basis? What does that look like at the end of one's life? Does it really matter? As long as you're generally doing good things, as long as you're generally a spiritual person. And I think a lot of people fall into that trap. And he says that you have the right way to view our path in life and also the way our life is meant to be lived is that from the moment I'm born to the moment that the soul leaves this world, there's a very narrow line, a very narrow path that I'm supposed to be walking. Mm-hmm. And the forces of this world that we spoke about before are there to push me to the right, to push me to the left, meaning to not necessarily make me not be spiritual, not necessarily make me not be a giving person, but just not exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Which means, again, for example...
Well, that's kind of what I was alluding to, right, at the beginning, saying opposition, but you heard it, I think, a little differently. Like that is the illusion of you're doing enough, you are in movement.
Right, well, all I was saying is that I don't see it as a negative. It's a force, a necessary force that is there to help us grow.
If we understand it. It's a negative if we don't recognize it.
Yes.
So go ahead.
So this is true not just in life in general, that there are specific things that I'm supposed to do, specific people I'm supposed to help, specific changes I'm supposed to be making. It's a very, and I don't want to scare our listeners, but it's a very exact purpose for which I came into this world, for which each one of our listeners came into this world. And that's important to understand about life, but it's also important to understand about today.
So you're saying it's narrow? Like it's so clear that It is there's a lot we do we don't need to do, which we know. We get distracted, we get busy. But
even
you're
good
saying
things,
there's
by the way,
very,
even
very specific
spiritual things.
Well, I remember years ago, and I quoted this a lot. I read, it was the book Time Management for Mortals. He talked about how we only have 6,000 weeks in a lifetime. And that really struck me. And I know every time I speak about it, I make people uncomfortable. But if you look at life like that, and the point of this book and this specific teaching that he had in it, and then of course I took it to next level about death, but in how he wrote it, it was that even if you've identified like 6 amazing things that would do good for the world, that you enjoy, that you're good at, you simply don't have the time, right? And ultimately what we're saying, I think here today, is that you're probably not meant to do it. It might be something that you recognize as good. Maybe you're supposed to give that idea to somebody else. But if there's 6,000 weeks, that list, your to-do list, which is really your to-be list, who you want to become rather than what you want to do, it becomes very narrow, because now you're super clear and you realize that you need to be focused. You're just going to miss the opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I would add to that is that's the general view of life, but it's also on a daily basis. So when I woke up this morning, when each one of our listeners woke up this morning, there were specific actions, people they were supposed to interact with, people they were supposed to have a positive impact on. And the way to ensure that your day is lived in the precise way is to listen, to pay attention, right? Because what happens to us sometimes, I'm going throughout my day, maybe it's later in the day, I'm tired, I've done a lot, and now an opportunity presents itself. Maybe a friend needs help. Maybe suddenly I have this idea of doing something positive. And that opportunity presents itself to me right now. What we'll often say is, again, I've done so much already today. I was so busy. I can do this tomorrow, or maybe just not even do it because I've done it. Now, it doesn't mean you have to do everything that comes into your path. But when you're viewing your day as not coincidental, as exact, as precise, then you're much more open to say, no, this isn't just coincidentally a friend needs my help right now, or I have this idea to do something that is important. You grab the opportunity, because today, and this is something that the Kabbalists remind us over and over, today will never come back.
The energy of each day is
the energy of today, what I'm supposed to do in this day, tomorrow there'll be new opportunities. They might be similar opportunities, but not the same. And that the energy of tomorrow is necessarily going to be different than today.
That's why we're not meant to look at a life in terms of years or months, ultimately days, even hours, right? Because it's the energy, the opportunity in this day is only unique to this day. And the less you spend your days, as you should, the less days we get, which is the biggest,
right,
the scariest part of that.
And one of the more beautiful sections in the Zohar, the foundational text of Kabbalah, is when it says in the Torah, in the Bible, Abraham, it says, came with his days, when it speaks of his death. Abraham was old, coming with his days. The Zohar there explains is that every day is an energy packet within which I'm supposed to reveal a certain amount of light. After that day is over, it leaves this world, that energy leaves this world. And if a person is living a life as he or she is supposed to, with the understanding of the exactness of our purpose, and the exactness of every single day, then when they leave this world, they come with all of their days.
I think this is so interesting too, because especially today, I think people confuse this because most people are trying to focus on, how they can put up boundaries and how they can say no and they can claim their power. And while I'm all for that to some extent, I think this gets confusing of like, no, I need to say no because if not, everybody will take it. It's more about the fear of what could be rather than actually what it is. I see it all the time. In fact, I gave a class last night and somebody was like, oh yeah, I'm saying no, and I'm saying no to this, I'm saying no to that. And, I understood that for her was growth from saying yes to everything that she shouldn't say yes to, but that is not the destination. Ultimately, you need to start to say, where am I pushing myself to give and to share and to do in ways that do really matter versus than just saying no to everything.
Absolutely.
And Kabbalah, one of the major things I think that really speaks to me and addresses this idea is that when we think about, again, if we go back to becoming versus doing, right? I often teach the idea about creating your to-be list before your to-do list. that we so often spend our time and energy doing. I want, even if it's building a company or creating a family, I want to do all these things. And we spend time being very busy with that. And that could take up a whole life, right? That could take up 6,000 weeks. It was really 4,000, but 6,000 if you're really, doing all of the things you need to do.
Longevity stuff.
But this idea that, let's say that you have a vision for who you want to become, right? That the version of yourself that is here today cannot think that that is even possible. It feels that insurmountable. It feels so far from your current state. That's really how we want to live each day. And if you think about that, then you're going to be really clear in your day what to say yes to and what to say no to, because everything is more about your becoming rather than your doing. And that's when you realize, okay, I'm busy, and I might even be successful, right? I might be busy, and all these things are things that are making me more successful or bringing me more of the things that I want in physicality. And while there's nothing wrong with that, it's not going to be enough for a person ever. At the end of their time, they're going to get to that place of, why didn't I spend time more? Who am I?
Yes. It's interesting. There's,
I'm sorry. I had this one epiphany a while ago too. I had an MRI, and for those who've ever had one, you go on the machine and you can't have anything, like not a phone, not music, nothing. And all you hear is the rumbling of the machine. And of course, your thoughts. I mean, mine was a sports injury, but people go in those machines for all kinds of reasons. And it's pretty scary, right? Like your mind goes. And I remember I was lying there, I'm like digging deep. I'm like, hey, what is in me? Like, what kind of wisdom content is inside of me that will comfort me and that will be with me in this moment when there's nothing in the physical to distract or support, nothing, right? At the end of the day, it's only your connection with your soul and the creator. So that was like the most humbling moment of this kind of teaching.
Yeah, you remind me, there's a beautiful section in the Book of Kings, in the prophets, and it talks about a revelation that Eliyahu Navi has, and the creator telling him how he's going to discover God. How he's going to discover. And it says, and it's interesting, it literally walks him through. It says there's going to be a tremendous wind, a wind that can uproot mountains, but God is not found in the wind. There will be a tremendous noise, but God will not be found in the noise. There will be a great fire that will then come, and God will not be found in the fire. And then there'll be a simple, quiet voice. And that's where you will connect to God. That's where the creator is. And I think it's your voice. It's the voice of your soul. Exactly.
Yeah, that's really beautiful.
And I think one of the things that very practically for our listeners,
we should frame that actually. It's very poetic.
Thank you.
You didn't write it.
I did not write it. No, it's the Book of Kings. I'll take credit though.
You read it.
I read it. But that, for our listeners, I think I would ask, and this really is what, when we talk about prayer, this is what prayer is about being alone with yourself. Not necessarily in an MRI machine. Sometimes that's what happens. But every single day.
But the thing about that, yes, and I obviously try to practice being alone in self all day, but there were no other options for a period of time. And I was uncomfortable in that state. And in the time that we are most uncomfortable, what do? We look for the distraction. We look for a comfort, and it's usually a physical one, right? Even if it's a hug or a touch, it's something always outside of us, right? Through us, but outside of us. There was just a machine and me. And that was just, I remember I actually felt, I mean, I'm weird like this, but I felt very humbled, but I felt very spiritually connected when I walked out of that appointment. I felt very connected to myself and the creator.
So what I would say to our listeners is to really make sure that every single day you have a period of time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half hour, an hour, however long, where however you get there, it could be through prayer, it could be through study, it could be through contemplation, it could be through meditation, where it is just you, yourself, your soul, and I would say the light of the creator. Because going back to what we were saying before, if you want to make sure you're living the life and the day and the hours that you're supposed to, that will only be discovered by you if there's a certain point in the day where you go back to yourself. And that becomes really what directs your day and your life. So if you're not experiencing that, and again, the original Hebrew is really beautiful, the kol dmama daka, that very soft, pure silence, then unlikely that you're experiencing your soul, the light of the Creator, and being able to live in the way that your soul is meant to live in this world.
Well, it's interesting because I think depending on where you live in the world, if you live in nature, obviously it's easier to do that. If you live in a city like New York, it's a bit more challenging. I went away last weekend, just for a girls' trip, to Montana, and I went to Yellowstone for the first time.
It's funny, I was there a year.
Thank you, Taylor Sheridan, for inspiring me again.
Really?
No, but I love nature, and I actually, it's now on my list to go to all the, the wonders of the world and all the national parks. And so the trip, it was great for so many reasons, but I think that for what I want to share today, I'm not going to go into all of it, but it gave me the opportunity. First of all, whenever you go out of routine, right? There was one morning where I was alone for 3 hours, no phone, by myself. And it's such a shift from how I'm normally living that I had so many downloads and epiphanies, and I felt very close to myself and very clear about what I need to change, right? Just in those 3 hours of silence and stillness. The other thing that really moved me was when you spend, and this was like 8 hours in nature, right? Where you're going from like crazy miracle creation after creation after creation, things that you cannot believe actually exist. They're so beautiful. And I just felt so close to the Creator. I mean, I started crying the last place I went to, this beautiful waterfall that you're just like, I cannot believe that this exists in the world. There's so much beauty in the world, but we don't take time to see it. But the other thing that struck me is nature is always in movement. The grass is moving, the water is moving, the wind, right? The trees are moving. Everything in nature is growth, is transformation, is evolution. And we are meant to live in that same movement like nature. Seasons change, just planets move. Nothing in creation stands still. So it would be silly for us to think that we should at some point stop putting as much effort into our growth, and I rather call it movement because we use the word growth and transformation so often. You just think about what's the opposite of movement is stillness. Now we want to be mindful still in our thoughts, but not stillness in terms of activating the becoming of us, right? And that becoming is a forever pursuit. So I think that
it's still not stagnant.
Right. And I think that if you ever need to jumpstart that within you, just spend a few hours, not just look at the sky for 3 minutes because it's good, or let the sun touch your skin, but really go and see the undeniable creation of this world. I don't know. I think it has the ability to really reset your life in a huge way if you're open to it.
Yeah. And I think I might have mentioned this in a previous podcast, but one of the things that I do if you ever want inspiration is there's some amazing videos on YouTube from Richard Feynman, a very famous physicist, and just even the way the natural world works is insane.
It's our tool. It's really our guide. We're just not, we minimize it because we're like, oh, we are the highest in the animal kingdom. Like we are, right? What are we going to learn from things that are, but you learn everything from nature. Absolutely everything.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to just unpack a little bit is the soul versus the ego, right? We talk about this a lot too, but in terms of this specific idea, the world measures movement, because we're talking about movement, through promotions, accomplishments, money, recognition, output. That's still an energy, all those things I just mentioned, right? But the soul measures movement differently. It measures it through awareness, transformation, humility, which is such a great word that I don't think we talk about enough. Emotional growth, expansion of consciousness, and becoming more of who you're meant to be, that becoming. So that's where our tension is all the time. It's the soul's seeking elevation naturally. That's where it wants to go. And the ego saying, no, let's stay still. The soul asks, what's my next level? The ego asks, can't we just stay here? And that's the constant battle that we have every day. Most of us aren't aware of it, but it is a daily battle. Some days we lose, some days we win, some days we just win a little part of the day, but we shouldn't deny what's really happening. That tension exists all the time. You said it earlier, we said it, the opposition versus soul, but if you think about this, I would even look for the tension in the day and say, okay, where is it? And where am I leaning into? Sometimes if you're attuned to your body, you're like, oh, I'm tense in my neck, or I'm feeling this pressure here. What could it be? What caused it? Was it a workout? Is it stress of the, whatever? And you kind of, if you're tuned with yourself, you go back and you do this examination. We are meant to do that with our days as well.
Absolutely. And I think there's, related to what you were saying, another, I thought it was a test, but question that we should ask ourselves. My father's teacher, Reb Brandwein, when he writes about what his life work was, he says something very interesting in creating what is now the Kabbalah Center, and all the, literally everything he did in his life was for one purpose. He said what he found is that even, and sometimes, especially spiritual people, they would use the wisdom to look outside of themselves, and with that be able to judge, oh, that person's, this and this. He says, if you find yourself looking outside for fault or for anything, that is the greatest indication that you're not living the purpose for which you came into this world. So if you're looking at what other people are doing physically, what they've accomplished, even spiritually, whether it's for judgment or for good. But if you spend a lot of time,
what is it called? Righteous, what's the word? When you use your spirituality as a way to better judge other people.
Is there a word for that?
I think there is. I can't remember right now.
And he said the whole purpose of everything that he did, and I would say this to our listeners, the whole purpose of any spiritual pursuit is that you are looking inward, contemplating yourself more and more. So if you spend, and just ask yourself the honest question, yesterday, on a regular basis, do you find yourself looking outside of what people are doing, what the good things they're doing, the bad things they're doing? You should know that that's a great indication that you're actually not on the spiritual path, but more importantly, that your focus is off, and unlikely that the life you're meant to live is being lived by you. And there's actually a beautiful ancient prayer that I would recommend for every one of our listeners to say right now, but also to say every single day. It says, the ancient prayer is, may the Creator protect me from the spreading of my soul. Pizur hanefesh is the ancient phrase. That when you're spreading your soul, what does it mean? Your focus, your energy outside into too many things, then it's not possible that you will be able to focus on the right things. Mm-hmm. You will miss them. You will miss the transformation you're supposed to be going through. You will miss the blessings you're meant to be manifesting.
You said when you spread your soul?
Yeah, that's nefesh. The word in the prayer is harachaman, right? That may the
so that's even the good
Creator protect us. Yishmerenu mipizur hanefesh, from the spreading of our soul. Exactly. A person might think, and that's why even being a spiritual teacher, right, can be that trap. You're so busy telling everybody else what they need, and that is to some degree the work of a spiritual teacher. But at the end of the day, it has to be inwardly focused. Mm-hmm. The balance must be much greater on the internal focus and transformation than what is happening outside. And one of the greatest indications that we're actually not living the life we're meant to be living is, in this today with social media, it's so much easier. But if you spend a significant amount, or any amount of time, because my father's teachers told him, your study and spiritual pursuit should be so inwardly focusing you that you literally have no time to be looking outside.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important question and indication of whether we're actually pursuing the spiritual work in the right way, whether we're actually living that narrow path that we spoke about earlier.
So interesting. It's a very fine line, right? You can say, oh, I know it's spiritual not to judge, and I'm working really hard not to judge either people. Like, let's use that as an example, right? Because there's many other negative traits that we need to change individually. But the whole point is, if you're doing this spiritual thing correctly, you're so busy with that, looking inward and making sure that you are becoming, that's how you get rid of judgment, right? So it's like, sometimes I think that people focus on, I need to change this, and I need to change that, I need to stop doing these things. But actually, if you apply the wisdom as it should be, which is just measuring yourself against who you have yet to become, then all that other stuff goes away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a beautiful phrase that the Zohar has, and it says, if a word is worth a silver coin, silence is worth two. That whatever focuses us inwardly is worth double than all the great things that focus us outside.
It's funny. One of our kids, whenever she says something, oops, like,
Well, it's one or two. One or two.
She's like, well, what are you, why aren't you answering? And she'll say, why aren't you answering? And I'm saying, I'm considering what you're saying. But very often I'll hold my tongue, which, by the way, is not how I came into this world. But I realize that I don't want to be sloppy with my words. And I want to check myself. Like, is what I'm about to say helpful? Is it true? Is it necessary? But it drives her crazy because she wants me to respond. And then I'll kind of respond to continue the conversation, but very thoughtfully. But it's an interesting kind of, it's so not natural, even though it's not hard for me now to hold my mouth or be aware that there's certain things I want to say versus don't want to say, but it's still an unnatural thing to not just say it,
Interesting. Yeah, well, always remind yourself, Mila besela, mishtuka betrein. That a word is worth one silver coin. Silence is worth two.
Mm-hmm. So I'll leave you guys with this. The goal of life isn't to stay busy. The greatest danger isn't falling behind. It's being fooled into thinking that action, all kinds of action, is growth. So this week, don't ask, what do I need to do? Ask, where is life asking me to grow?
It reminds me of that book, in which I think maybe if there's a phrase our listeners take from today's.
Which book?
I'm about to say it.
Okay.
Stillness is the key,
mm-hmm.
right? And the idea is that there has to be, as we spoke earlier, enough moments in the day, and certainly moments in your life, when you are contemplative, when you're going inside, when you are in that state of stillness, because that's the only way your soul is revealed to you, the light of the Creator is revealed to you, and ultimately the path that leads you to the blessings that you're meant to reveal.
But stillness, again, I think that for especially type A people like myself, the example I gave in Montana, the 3 hours that I was alone. I mean, it took me longer because I'm in the busy all the time, right? So and that's, I've noticed it's scary because I don't know what it feels like. I don't know how to be like it, just to stop in a day. It's just even when it's time to go to bed, I'm like, what else can I fit into this day? And I don't like it. Even though I'm productive, there's a lot I'm missing spiritually when I'm in that state constantly and for too long, because then even the work becomes about completion rather than elevation, right? So the 3 hour, no phone, the people I was traveling with, they were not with me. 3 hours of just being by myself in nature, stretching. I used my body in a different way. It wasn't like this crazy workout, sweating. Like I literally stretched for an hour. I don't know when I've done that, and I felt disarmed, but in a really great way. So I would say that that's the stillness, because I think most people think, oh, I'm gonna breathe, I'm gonna take a minute. That's not. I don't think that's enough, especially if you live a very, very busy life.
Agreed. So we hope you remember to share this podcast with everybody you know. Go to Apple Podcasts, write a review. It helps others discover this podcast. Share, as we said, this podcast with everybody you know. Write your letters, comments, questions to Monica and Michael at spirituallyhungry.life. Monica and Michael at spirituallyhungry.life. Your letters inspire us. They inspire our readers. So please make sure to continue to send us all of your ideas, questions, comments, and inspirations. And as always, we hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast as much as we enjoyed recording it.
Stay spiritually hungry.